So I thought that I would make this video just a real quick 5 reasons why I believe that we're at the very end of the age of man and quickly coming upon the millennial reign of Christ, the second coming of the Lord. And the number one reason, let's get right into it, is Israel was reborn as a nation in 1948. Unlike any other nation in history that lost its sovereignty for thousands of years, Israel alone, out of all the other nations, was reborn, and their own people with their own old traditions back into the land. Now, there's always been a remnant of the Jewish people there, but now it has become the home of the Jewish people once again. And they lost that after they rejected their Messiah. But in the last days, the Messiah said that he would save the Jews. And that would be after he gathered them back into their land. And not only has he gathered them back into their land, but he has also given them their original name of Israel so that Christ could come back and their Messiah could save that of Israel. So Israel being reborn as a nation in 1948 was a huge, huge step in knowing that we are truly in the final days of man. Now, number two, it's been 2,000 years since Christ. We're coming up on this 2,000 year mark. And as you can see by this chart, Adam to Abraham was roughly right around the 2,000 year mark. And if you'll notice, Abraham was born about 1948 years after Adam. Now, that's really something. I mean, you talk about sheer coincidence or divine planning right there. So not only was it about 2,000 years after Adam that Abraham was born and came into the scene and became the father of the faith as we know it, but also it was about 2,000 years after Abraham that Christ was born. And now we're seeing this 2,000 year mark again, and we do believe that it's probably marking the return of Christ. And the number three reason why I believe we are in the very final days is because the gospel is now worldwide. If you'll notice how the best selling book of all time, not just in our time, but of all time, is the Christian Bible. Not just the Old Testament, not the Bhagavad Gita, not the Quran, not Harry Potter, not anything else. Nothing even comes close to the Christian Bible. That is the Old Testament as well as the New Testament telling of Christ. Best-selling book of all time. Also, the number one most famous person of all time is Jesus Christ himself. The number one most influential person of all time is Jesus Christ himself. And unlike any other person in history, time itself is divided between before his birth and after his birth. No one else has that kind of influence over the entire world besides its creator, obviously. As we go before Christ, and it is 2024 today, AD or Anno Domini, which means in the year of the Lord. So time itself is even submissive to Christ. And Jesus says this in Matthew 24, discussing the final days right before his second coming. And he says, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come," meaning the end of the age of man. So I do believe that the third reason why we are in the final days before the second coming of Christ is because the gospel has now been spread worldwide, just like Jesus said it would. Number four, technology has boomed, and this is a huge indicator of the final days. Now, within a millisecond, we can contact one another, not just send a message from America to China within 1 millisecond, but we can also send video. This is very important because the Antichrist in these final days would need such technology to make the entire world bow down to the image of the beast, just as the false prophet will have them do, which is an image of the Antichrist. And though there are a variety of opinions about what this mark of the beast is, this 666 mark, is it a chip? Is it technological? Is it spiritual? Is it figurative in nature? Whatever it is, we now know that we have technology in which it will either permit or prohibit people from buying or selling now if they don't have a certain thing or a mark, if you will, within their hand or in their forehead. Just look at what Elon Musk is now coming out with, this Neuralink, where we can now sync our own minds with technology. And just like the founder of Facebook said, Mark Zuckerberg, he just recently said this. He said that the AI companies are trying to create God. Now people no longer go to God for answers. No, they go to Google. What does everyone say? They say, well, Google it. There are also 100-foot tall statues built, which can be changed into anyone's image, anyone, and whom steps into this little booth. And these statues can also speak, just like the Revelation 13 image of the beast. It begins to speak. John had never seen a statue speak. Now we have the technology to where it can actually speak. And it's about the same size as Nebuchadnezzar's statue, which was roughly about 90 to 100 feet tall as well. I have an entire video about these 10-story tall statues. It's called This Is Real. 10-story tall talking statue has been built. Is this the image of the beast? So once again, the booming technology fits right in with the Revelation prophecies, if you will. But number 5 is also the itching ears of the people, and how people are now so readily accepting false doctrines and fake signs on a level like they never have before. In 2 Timothy 4, Paul the Apostle wrote, "The time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth, and shall be turned unto fables." If you'll look, the most crowded churches now are surrounding these false teachers that preach false doctrines and show fake signs, and the entire gospel of the modern day is centered around self. It's no longer pointing to serving the Lord or glorifying the Lord, but the giving now is this seed faith in which it's much more an investment because people are more worried about themselves. It's all about, well, I'll be prosperous if I give this kind of money. Right here is an quote-unquote apostle named Catherine Crick, and she is actually advocating for itching ears.
And let them make their own decisions and make their own decisions to judge the fruit. Instead of forcing people, this is the real fruit, that's bad fruit, I'm forcing you to come to the real good fruit. That's what people are doing when they're taking the place of the judge of God. They're saying, nope, you're disqualified to be in ministry. And it's literally not giving people even free will. Let people have itching ears if that's what they want. Let people be lukewarm if that's what they want. Let people do what they want. Free will.
Once again, notice how this self-proclaimed apostle, Catherine Crick, is raging against biblical correction. But back in the days of the Bible, they had real apostles like Paul and Simon Peter and James and John. But now look at who we got in these last days. Our apostles are completely fraudulent. Here, the self-proclaimed apostle, Catherine Crick, is raging against biblical correction and advocating itching ears and lukewarm living. But why are we shocked? Seemingly, ever since Israel became a nation again in 1948, these false prophets have went throughout the entire world, spreading false gospels throughout, fleecing the flock, not feeding them in any way. No, they're getting filthy rich from them, and now they're up in the upper echelons of governments, and their influence is completely taken over the entire world. So, my dear friends, I do believe that these 5 reasons are very valid when pertaining to, I think the second coming of Christ is right around the corner, and I think even closer than that is the rapture.